Well, sometimes I wonder if I'm getting despondent, you know, you have such a day and you think, yeah, I'm just not going to go out and take some pictures. And then you get something like this. There's an overcast sky, but it's giving such strange grey hues about an hour before the sun sets. So no fuel has been expended in the making of this video, and it's not sponsored by anybody. So I've just come through the cricket field out to the back to where I live. We've got all of this lush wheat field, but there's a public footpath that meanders around the side. And we've got my two favourite trees, which you've seen in other videos. So I thought I'll just come out because I want to talk about panoramas and also to demonstrate how I create a panorama using software. Let's go and set up down there and I'll talk you through a few things. It's so peaceful. It's a little bit liberating actually, not having to jump in the car and go somewhere, but to rather just come outside where I live, you know, and you can come out where you live and take some pictures. So I thought I'll take this first shot, try and get a panorama out of it, and then we'll just walk around the field and get the two trees with the same sky. So as you can see, the shot, which has got the GoPro camera in there, is that single tree, and there's some nice kind of leading line on the S-bend of the tracks from the tractor. But we've got that lovely tree. Lock that focus in there so that the autofocus doesn't go crazy. And the sky is starting to do something, so I might do a little bit of bracketing, but the reality is I wanted to talk about panoramas and actually do a demonstration of how I stitch them together using my software. Now I use Affinity Photo. I don't have Lightroom, I don't have Adobe Photoshop, partly because as an amateur photographer I'm not really inclined to be prepared to fork out a monthly subscription for a piece of software that I will only use perhaps 20% of, because I'm not that familiar with how it works. But I bought Affinity Photo from Serif. I bought the license, $47.99, and basically the software is mine for as long as I want to use it, and they send updates. So what I'll do is use my Affinity Photo software to stitch together the two panoramas that I'm going to take. Now looking at this scene, move my camera just slightly here so that I don't get the DJI in the shot. I've got the tree, but if I go at the widest angle, which is 18mm, that's kind of wide enough, and if I took that shot, which I'll do, and then turned that into a pano, you'll see here there's really not a lot of definition. All we've got is the foreground and a kind of tiny tree. What I would want to do for a pano, I want the tree and I want the path, but I actually want some of the surrounding edges, like so, that the left of the tree and a bit of the right of the tree. But it's because I can zoom in. The exercise for this video, apart from getting out the house and, you know, get off my bum watching television, is to actually demonstrate the software. So I will line up the three shots. So I'm going to aperture priority f4 7.1. It's a sweet spot on this camera. It wants to give me, on this lens rather, taking photographs at the end of the day. One could be a bit tired, couldn't one? So I'm at 50mm. I'm going to take this first shot. Rather sweet, nice sky. Turn it ever so slightly. So I'll put the shots at the bottom of the screen for you. 1, 2 and 3. Lovely. The other shot I want to take is with the two trees, but it's clouding over now. I was getting some fabulous sky before. So there's the three shots along the bottom there. It's not an award-winning composition. I just want to demonstrate, as I say, the capabilities of stitching together a panorama. I'm going to walk around there so that I can get those two trees and maybe get a bit of the sun's rays coming down in the middle. Even though I'm going to demonstrate how to stitch the panorama together, here's that first shot as a panorama. We'll see when I get back to the studio. Keep thinking I'm on Top Gear. Back to the studio. When I get back to my desk, which will probably be tomorrow morning, you'll see how I put this picture together. So anyway, here's the picture. I'm going over there. What is kind of bizarre is that I'm in the countryside and it's all very serene, apart from the distant rumble of cars coming down the main road. I don't feel I need to shout or raise my voice. It's kind of, it makes a change. You know, if I'm down by the sea or I'm at the airport or wherever I am, and there's always background noise. But now it's all quiet and we can whisper. I had hoped that the clouds would kind of scatter. Now it's, what is the time? Not really one for wearing a watch. 20:47. Sun will probably set. In fact, I could look at that on the app, couldn't I? Sun is due to set at 9:20, which means we'll get the golden hour. Well, probably in the golden hour now. Get the blue hour at 9:15, which is half an hour away, which could cast some orange hues on those clouds. It's already starting. Do I wait just a little longer? Although that sky looks quite dramatic on there, doesn't it? I'm going to go with that. That's nice. So there I am, zoomed out at 18mm. Got my two trees, sun setting in the background, some nice wash of clouds. Plus I'm running out of battery power on that, so I better hurry up. So kind of that's the shot I want, but I want to panorama it so that I've got the trees in the middle, but I'm zoomed in and I get a little bit of the countryside on the left. So again, if I was this far out, I'll take the shot anyway, just so that you get the idea of why I would compose it as a panorama. Lovely, but too much foreground. So again, I'll do 3 shots. I'm losing battery power on all of this, but that's probably because I didn't kind of know I was coming out. All I was going to do was take a couple of local shots without going out in my car and spending a mini fortune on petrol. Because these are the times we're living in, people. That's shot 1. Shot 2. It's very nice. And I'll push that just to the edge there. Straighten it up a bit. And the reason I'll straighten it up will become apparent. I'll zoom out just a tad. Because you get a convex. If I put them all linear, then because the front of the camera is closest, it doesn't give me the full perspective. So actually my stitched panorama would look like an hourglass, you know, wide at the ends but narrow in the middle. So by zooming out on the edges but zooming out at the middle but zooming in at the edges should hopefully give me a linear panorama, and we'll see that when I stitch it together. That was shots 1 and 2. Here's shot 3. Quite pleasant considering it's now 10 to 9 in the evening. So there's the 3. I will have by the time you're watching this and I've gone back, this will be the image, the end product, part 2 of this video, which will be all in one video. is how did I create this panorama? By stitching it together using software. Stick with me, it could be interesting. Here's the image anyway. And it's day 2, later that week. Well, actually not that week, it's the very next day. So let's have a look on the screen. I've got 6 images so that I can do 2 panos, 3 images in each pano. So we look on the screen here. I'll reduce myself down into the corner or up on the top, whatever works. I'm not going to argue with the point. I've moved my images into their own unique folder. There's the originals. Don't want to play around with the originals because you never know. So 11, 12 and 13 is Pano 1, that's the first shot, and 16, 17 and 18 are the next. Why they're not sequential, I can't think. Oh yeah, I took random shots, didn't I? I said this would be the wide angle. Suddenly questioning myself. So the first thing I've got to do is launch Affinity Photo. So let's get that open. I'll move this out of the way. And up it comes, nice blank, you know, the kind of things you'd expect to see in Lightroom. And they're all here as well, you know, making layers, etc., etc. So if I drag those 3 pictures into the working area, they don't look too bad by themselves. You can see kind of like the, you know, the way I've panned it from left to right. So there's 12 and 13, let's move them around. 11, 12, 13. So it's really just a case of getting the software to create the pano. So I'll close them, don't need them open. Select File, New Panorama. How easy is this, right? Add my images. I need to go to the folder that's got them. Movie Maker, Panorama 2, Images, Images for Pano. 11, 12 and 13. Let's see what it does, how quick and intelligent it is. It's showing me the 3 images I've selected. So all I've got to do is click the button, Stitch Panorama. And we wait while it does its work. There we are, we have a preview, and I'm glad that you can see in this preview it's not an hourglass where I'd expected it to be shallow in the middle and wide at the top, and that's because the main focus of the subject is closest to, in this instance, the lens. So as I move away, I have to force the lens closer on the left and the right just to even it out. So we'll click OK. It now renders those images. You can see rendering panorama, and you can see the overlaps with the dark in the image. Oh, and it's just done it. So what have I got to do with this image? Well, I've got to crop it because, you know, because of the panorama, the way it's lining up all the synchronized edges, it then has moved the left and the right, and so we get these areas of with no image. So I can use the crop tool, which highlights the image, and just drag the border. In terms of the top, it's this section here, so I'll bring that to there. I might actually make it a smaller pano, but for now I'll just remove the white edges and click apply, and that's my pano. Now the question for me is, aesthetically, do I want it to be narrower? Have I got too much sky? Have I got too much wheat at the bottom? But I like the wheat because that's giving it character. So I'll have a play with this. Let's have a look. If I dropped it down like so and brought the line up a little, and also chopped in from the left. So obviously the subject is the tree, and I've got the tractor tracks giving me my S-bend, which is a kind of leading line. So from the left, the viewer's eye is drawn to the tree, and then we've got the sun through the cloud. Quite a nice picture, actually. So that's Pano 1. Do I then want to enhance that image? Let's just have a quick look. I could do some dodge and burn. Dodging makes it brighter, so I'll increase my hardness and my opacity and my flow. I will increase my radius of my selecting tool, and this I've heard, and I can't vouch for this because I don't have Lightroom, but Affinity Photo gives you a preview of what hardness, you know, what your selections are, whether it's too bright or dark. So I'm going to just cover this area and highlights. So by dodging, I'm not going too detailed on this, especially on the edge of the trees. I won't let it overlap. I did there. Drat. Undo. Control Z. It's a wonderful tool, isn't it? I don't want to spend too much time on this little video for you. You know, this section of the video. We've already seen that Affinity Photo can splice the image together. I want to highlight the tree a little bit, so I'll reduce and zoom in. Control and wheelie mouse zooms in. And I'll just give the tree a little bit of highlighting or dodging. Reduce that, get down to the bark. Increase it again, we'll go for a second run because I wasn't sure. That's nice, it's bringing out the definition of the leaves there. Control 0 gives me my zoom. I've got that. I might actually just do some enhancing by looking at the filters in a minute, but let's see what the burn does. I don't need so much hardness, but I'd like to see the sky enhanced a little bit. You can see what it's doing as I move the mouse over. So let's cover the sky up a little bit here. It gives it a more moody feel. I've highlighted the field and the tree, but I'm now darkening the sky. I think this, yeah, it kind of looks nice, doesn't it? I could spend ages, obviously, zooming into the finite detail of it. Turn that off. I've got two options here. I can play around with the curves as you do in Lightroom, as you can see it doing its thing, but I don't want to play around with the curves. I just want to smudge the brightness and contrast a little to illuminate it, even though I darkened it down. That's nice. And I also want to look at the shadows and highlights. Don't like that. I just like playing around with these things, you know, till I get what I think is a presentable image. And that, I think, would look nice on a canvas, you know, on a wall. So that's an option, you know, we can put our images on canvases. So I think that's image 1. There is one further thing I can do. Affinity Photo, one of the default filters is haze removal, which I believe is a little like HDR. And what it will do, I can adjust the strength of the filter and adjust the exposure correction. Just let it analyze the scene. Whoa, see that? It's definitely HDR. Distances. You can see my problem here. I should have done haze removal before I did the dodge and burn, because now where I dodged the tree but burned the sky, I've now got like a halo shape going around the tree, and that's not going to be any good, I think. Well, I will not have haze removal. That's it. Just what you see is what you get. It's a very nice picture, I think. So export that. We will call that Pano 1. Lost the dot. I'm a Windows user, not a Mac user. So I can't give you any of the control names or anything for that. So that's saved in Pano, which is good because you can see each of the images, and then when we look at the Pano with a little bit of enhancing, looks quite good. Let's do the same for the second picture then. I won't go through all the motions of I've got to click this and that and the other. You saw me doing it in the first one. So I'll just select the images and see what we get. It's trial and error until we stitch it. Ooh, that's going to be a narrower, because you can see the edges it was rendering. And slightly, my horizon is slightly bent, so I'm going to have to adjust that. So we'll crop it at the lowest point there. Just bring it in for a moment. We can crop further if we have to. But you can see where I just panned the camera around, the field is now moving up. It will be that way, won't it, when I display it? So I can use my mesh wrap tool or perspective tool. Go into perspective. Let's just see what we can do here by grabbing the border. It's kind of straightening it out, but it's giving me more of a pano perspective. Don't like that, so we'll edit undo. Let's go for the mesh wrap tool. That lets me grab the borders and I get a better control by pushing the edges out. That's getting straighter. It's all about whoop, pushing in there. Almost perfect. Playing around with it. I do like the post-processing because that's part and parcel of the image creation, isn't it? Where you're in control of the final outcome. There we go. We'll apply that. We now have to crop it one more time because I've straightened that horizon up. I do this a lot in my images. You know, and here's the image I took. It's not straight from the can. It really isn't. I've usually done something to it. So there we go. Another pano. It's probably still a bit squint. Let's try the haze removal first before I do any dodge and burn. Let's just see what it does, because I do think it's a little like HDR. Oh, that's nice. It's giving me all sorts of different colours. I think for the sake of this image, I might leave that one as that. Let's just move the sliders here. See, it's too strong. It does give me the more detail in the sky. I think I'm a little, my horizon is still kind of going, but I could argue that that is the lay of the field. In fact, that's what I will argue. It wasn't me, Gov. It's just what it is. I'm going to highlight the field. There's two ways I can do this actually. I can just go along with my dodge brush. Just go in there. Or, and I'll undo that, if I get my selector tool, I can select the bits that I want to highlight. I don't want the sky, thank you. As intelligent as software is, it often makes assumptions. I just want to see what happens if I select the tree and then, oops, you can see the marching ants of the selection. So the bottom half of the screen is selected. I will refine this just to get make sure I've got a smooth enough edge. I can see the red part will not be affected. So now when I select brightness, I'll drag that onto the image. You can see that the foreground, I can actually brighten just the selection, which I think is nice. Now again, I would end up doing a lot of refinement. So where those marching ants are, if I deselect for a minute and zoom in, you might see just a tiny bit of exaggerated brightness. Oh, that feather actually worked. Oh well. That's me telling you that. Document reselect. Where's reselect? Select, reselect. Thank you. And now I will use this button to invert the selection. So now the sky, you see the marching ants are around the sky and over the trees. So now when I apply brightness and contrast, it should only affect the sky. As you can see, I could make it look like nighttime, but that's just being silly. So bring a bit, I think what I might do as well is bring in a little bit of saturation and vibrance, just to emphasize the orangeness of the sky. It might actually look a bit silly. I'm just playing around here. Deselect. It's not bad. This section here I could have done better with my selection, because you can see that the brightness where I've brightened the bush has brightened the sky behind the bush. And that kind of is already jumping out at me. And also here around the tree. But for the sake of this exercise, we're not doing editing images, we're doing creating a panorama. So that's kind of good. So I shall pop that out, export as Pano 2, exporting. Don't need to save it, close that down, bring the folder in. There's my two Panos. Where's the split? There. Quite nice, quite nice, considering I was kind of, do I want to go out and take photographs? It didn't turn out too badly. That's done in a matter of 20 minutes. I might shorten this section. Certainly I wouldn't want to send these to Canvas now, because I'm not pleased with them. You know, the outcome is clearly hodgepodge. But again, the exercise was how to create a panorama in Affinity Photo. Getting all tongue-tied because it's getting warm in here. So yeah, that's it. That's the video. Thanks for watching and bearing with, and take a look up here on my panorama videos, and I will see you in another video. Bye for now.